Hey guys, my name is Ivan. If you're new to this channel, let me introduce myself. I'm actually an influencer. I have been an influencer on this platform for many years. Anywhere you look at my channel, you see dozens of likes, hundreds of views, just kind of the kind of things you don't see everywhere. Uh, and mostly I influence people by assuming a fatherly role for them. A lot of people are in need of a YouTube dad. YouTube is very confusing. I've always said so. Like, the thing about YouTube is that there are so many videos, and frankly, I have to say that there are too many videos on this platform. And you start watching something, and then another video pops up, and then three other videos just appear out of nowhere. And people are very confused by this. People don't know what to do. They don't know what to watch. They don't know how to watch different things. And um, and I help out with that kind of thing. I'm very into parasocial relationships with people who watch this channel. I'm desperate for more parasocial relationships, and I believe in measured and constructive criticism. I never just attack anybody on here, unlike other YouTube channels that are filled with cheap headlines and a lot of negativity. I reject reckless language. A lot of people speak recklessly on YouTube, and I'm not one of them. I watch what I say. I'm very careful and very precise with what I say. I wield a scalpel of reason. We live in a free country, and so you can consider Jordan Peterson a dad, but I consider him to be a fake dad. This is like Kermit Tears Peterson. He's crying all the time. He's not as reliable as I am. He's not as mentally stable as I am. Jordan Peterson isn't. And today we're going to offer measured and constructive criticism of his appearance on Megyn Kelly's YouTube channel. Megyn Kelly is really a pretty lady, but I don't agree with everything she says. Oh, God. Well, anyway, my friends, let's leap into it. Let's see what Jordan Peterson has to say about Elliot Page and the kind of things that are on his mind.
In 2022, that you were suspended from X. This is now unthinkable with Elon in charge. But I do believe there's a purpose to it all. I really do. You were suspended from X due to a post about Ellen Page, who now goes by Elliot Page, and now she says she's a he, but she's a she. And you tweeted out during Pride Month, which made it actually controversial. Remember when Pride was a sin? And Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician. And you got in trouble. You're suspended from X during that time, which was then Twitter. And you said, the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet. And I would rather die than do that. That was one. You are not allowed to have those opinions, Jordan. You can't say that Elliot is still really Ellen and not a woman any longer.
Yeah, well, with regard to Paige, I think what's happened to her is just an absolute bloody catastrophe. I think it's terrible.
Same.
Like, seriously terrible. And I would regard her as a victim and accept that she paraded it. And the problem with that is that once you parade your self-destructive proclivity as a virtue, you're no longer a victim, you're a perpetrator. And so that was the dividing line for me. Like, she must have been stunningly, unimaginably unhappy to have gone through what she went through. And I can only imagine how she got there. And I think that the physicians and the counselors who enabled her in that, I believe they should be put in prison for the rest of their life.
Hey, my dude, what are we talking about here? For the rest of their life? For doing a procedure that an adult wanted to have done to them? They should be sent for the rest of their life in prison.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely unconscionable. So that's really sad. I used to watch Paige when she was a young woman on the Trailer Park Boys in Canada, which is this like off-color, hilarious Canadian sitcom. And she was so charming and so
She was
lovely.
great in Juno.
Oh, yeah, yeah. She's such an attractive person. And I can't imagine how much pain she must have had to do that. But you don't get to tell young women to do it. You don't. Sorry, that's just not acceptable.
And so there is no evidence that Elliot Page actually told any women to do what he did, to go through the transition. There is no evidence that he's promoting this to anybody else. He's just living his life. And here I want to say that, when conservatives talk about transgender issues, a lot of the things that they focus on, for example, is children going through transitioning and how that's wrong because they're not grown enough to make these kinds of decisions. They talk about the transgender athletes and their unfair advantage. But in this instance, this is just an adult making a decision about their life, about who they are. And Peterson is presenting his opinion as going against the stream, on insisting on the fundamental reality that Elliot Page is a she and nothing is going to change that. And to me, his opinion about this and the way he expresses actually has nothing to do with any biblical stories or archetypes or morality. It has to do with disgust. He is just disgusted by what happened here. And he's disgusted with the people who facilitated or who made it possible for Elliot Page to have gender reassigning surgery. Everything is a lie, aside from that disgust. And if he was actually honest with ourselves, instead of shedding his Kermit tears, he could say, I'm just disgusted with this thing. I'm just disgusted with this. You see, my friends, there is kind of right now there are 8 billion people on this planet, 8 billion plus. And within this huge population of our species, there are going to be variations. There are going to be people of different heights, people with different predispositions, people with different mental illnesses and lack thereof. And there are going to be people who are going to be gay, and they're going to be a tiny minority, a tiny slither of a minority of people who identify with the gender that's not their birth biological gender. And the one thing you can do to this population, which has a lot of distress and a lot of pain in their lives, as Peterson has outlined, the one thing you can do is not misgender them. Because to do that, you're not insisting on some sort of a higher truth. You're often acting out of disgust. It's just disgusting that there was, from Peterson's point of view, there was this a beautiful lady, a beautiful actress, and then the criminal physicians, now, her pain is resolved from her point of view by having the gender surgery. And I've never met a transgender person in my life, but the one thing I can do is not misgender them. I can just acknowledge their fundamental reality. So I don't believe that Peterson gives a shit about Elliot Page. I don't believe he has any real compassion toward him. I believe that at the end of the day, this is just disgust. It's so explained by disgust, and his disgust oozes out of his tweets and so on. And there's nothing profound there. There's nothing about, you're not punching up, you're punching down, I think, by misgendering. That's my thought about it anyway. Why wouldn't there be, in the diversity of the human condition, in the diversity of human beings, why wouldn't there be a small minority of people who identified since childhood with the opposite gender? Why would that not happen? And so, I don't think that this is a decent thing to do or a good thing to do to insist on Elliot Page being a woman when he doesn't want to be a woman. I don't see any glory in it. I don't see anything profound there. All I see is just disgust that's covered by a veil of something else, of righteous outrage. So that's what's going on there. Now we're going to transition to another clip of Professor Peterson shedding a few tears because the movie presented him as being a king of incels, or something like that. Let's just take a look and see.
I'll ask you just quickly, the film director Olivia Wilde has a new movie out, which she says is based on you, this insane man, this pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Incel being these weirdo loner men who are despicable in many ways. Is that you? Are you the intellectual hero to these people?
Sure, why not? People have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. What a terrible thing to do that is. I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
It's making you emotional. Talk about that.
Well, God, it's very difficult to understand how demoralized people are. And certainly many young men are in that category.
Why did that make you so emotional, Jordan? What is it you've seen that Olivia Wilde hasn't?
It isn't me or the soy boys and girls. It's me or Andrew Tate. So you can take your pick. And I wouldn't recommend the worshipers of power. If you want to see toxic masculinity, like, you ain't seen nothing yet. And if you think it's married men who are like working that are toxically masculine, then...
My friends, a lot of people who cry a lot, they kind of tend to cry a little bit for themselves for the most part. And I'm basing it not just on Peterson, but on myself also. Like, last time I cried a lot was when my grandmother was passing away. I was sad about this. And I was crying, but I was sort of crying in large part for myself, in a sense of, suffering this loss, etc. And I think that Peterson, it's kind of touching and it's kind of sweet that he cries a lot. But he's kind of, I think he was a little bit crying, maybe a little bit for the lonely, alienated men, but a little bit for himself, like a little bit for this kind of a messiah who goes there in the gutter of male loneliness and alienation and pulls people out of there with, instructions to clean their bed and whatever, and rinse the foreskin, which is the name of my upcoming book. So yeah, that's basically what's going on, like Peterson is not exactly like, he's not a Socrates, right? Socrates had to drink the poison. Peterson became a millionaire by being a contrarian versus the leftist ideology. Versus the, he's a very well compensated person in this culture war that's going on. And currently the Republicans are contemplating massive cuts to Medicaid, which, for those of you who may be living outside of American shores, Medicaid is the insurance for the very poor. If Republicans end up cutting this thing, I'm sure you're more likely to see Peterson disgusted with Elliot Page than disgusted with poor people in their millions potentially losing health insurance. I don't think we're going to see any Kermit tears for this, except this is real life, and the other one is a culture war against a tiny slither of the population who happen to identify with a different gender than the one they were assigned by biology. So yeah, I think I've kind of said it all. I don't know what else I can say, but these are my thoughts. I want to thank my patrons for supporting me, and I want to thank all my viewers. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And hope all goes well for you, my friends. Hope everything goes well for you.